folks. It is August 28th, 2026. Of course, it's a Friday, and a lot is going on in the world and around the world. And we'll be talking about that here on Pod TV. And hopefully, some folks will be joining me very shortly to add to the conversation and all along those lines. Glacial collapse triggers flash flood on Nepal China border. Death toll rises in Nepal China border disaster as the lake poses new flood threat. A New York teenager and a mother are among 90 Americans missing in Nepal as families desperately search for answers. India is highlighting Nepal's request after Kathmandu says no to foreign help. Nepal flood death toll rises to over 500 as new flood warnings clouds search for survivors, and all in that space. King Harald V of Norway has died at the age of 89 years old. So Harald V, Norway's king, as tradition and modernity collided, died at the age of 89. He became Norway's crown prince, becomes King Haakon the Seventh after his father's death. So Harald the Fifth, the sailing king who epitomized a modern Norwegian royalty, has passed away, and his son becomes King Haakon the Eighth. I said the fifth, but it's actually the eighth, and everything like that. Trump promised a short Iran war. 6 months later, he has few good options. 6 months in, Iran's regime stands. U.S. goals remain unmet. Iran war reaches its 6 month mark as Trump tries increasing economic pressure. So the Iran war has changed the Middle East, but not in the way its architects had hoped. Inside Afghanistan secret schools for girls. So 5 years ago, I was in the fifth grade, is what was being reported in 8 a.m. media, and how the Taliban is reshaping Afghan higher ed was an opinion piece in the article inside Higher Ed magazine. U.S. says pipelines will make Strait of Hormuz irrelevant. Energy experts disagree. And U.S., South Korea, and Japan to hold drill as North Korea ramps up pressure on the U.S. South Korea, Japan, and U.S. to hold North Korea-focused nuclear missile drill, and Japan, South Korea, and U.S. will be holding those military drills, is what Seoul is saying. So looks like there'll be some military drills with us and some of our Asian partners. Trump's Greenland fixation put security at the heart of Iceland's knife-edge EU vote. A tiny Nordic nation ways moving closer to Europe under the shadow of Trump. So former Iceland Prime Minister to pro-EU voters, your referendum doesn't matter. The sauna is hot and uncomfortable. Vote on EU talks makes Iceland sweat. So definitely there's a lot of things going on in that space as well. 3 Secret Service officials placed on administrative leave pending misconduct. Secret Service spokesman is put on leave amid the investigation. So it looks like there might have been some potential misconduct in that part of the world and dealing with our Secret Service and all in that space. Radko Mladic, the murderous butcher of Bosnia, has died at the age of 83. So the ex-Bosnian Serbian warlord who oversaw atrocities dies, looks like, as a prisoner and all in that space. So definitely it looks like BBC, Alan Little, was said, I met the dangerously fanatical Mladic early in the Bosnian War. And definitely that is something that folks will be talking about as well. We've heard some reports of that in other news outlets as well. Ukrainian drones target one of Russia's largest oil refineries in Yaroslavel. So Ukraine says it hit a major oil refinery in Russia's Volga region. So Ukrainian forces strike Tu-95MS at Ingalls Air Base used by Russia to attack Ukraine, is what Zelensky is saying. So definitely this war is still raging on, and there's a lot of attacks back and forth. Heavy rain and flooding in north-central Japan strands people and vehicles, and Typhoon Sadal makes landfall on the eastern coast of China. Typhoon Sadal brings heavy rain to saturated southeastern China. So definitely flights, ferries canceled in Shanghai and Shenzhen as Typhoon Salo closes in. So definitely this is some weather impacted stuff that folks will be paying attention to as well. It's definitely going to impact folks in a lot of ways, and it definitely is something that folks are talking about in that sense. U.S. nears deal to secure a stake in Venezuelan oil field, insiders say. So Trump administration in advanced talks for stake in Venezuelan oil field. OPEC's future darkens with Venezuela latest nation to mull exit. U.S. nears deal to secure long-term access to Venezuelan oil reserves is what sources are reporting. And there's a U.S. Patriot missile shortage in Europe. U.S. faces critical shortage of Patriot missiles in Europe, officials tell the AP. And U.S. weapons shortage from Iran war alarms allies confronting China. So even foreign policy is saying Trump's missile mass problem. So there's definitely some things going on that as well. And Turo Kingdom mourns the death of King Oyo at age 34. So the Ugandan King Oyo Nyamba, once the world's youngest monarch, has passed away at the age of 34. So irreplaceable loss, Uganda reacts to the sudden death of Turo King Oyo at 34 after a secret illness, and all in that space. Russia is threatening strike on UK military targets, catastrophic consequences over Ukraine. UK's Burnham to visit Ukraine with plan to support long-range missile production, and this was reported a few days ago, and all in that space. Russia says UK playing with fire amid report CIA chief has warned Kremlin not to attack NATO. So definitely that's a lot going on in that space as well. And Iran is calling for global pushback against U.S. sanctions, says diplomacy isn't impossible. Iran war mediators focus on reopening the Strait of Hormuz, and Qatar steps in to mediate as Trump says U.S. not talking to Iran. Qatari Prime Minister travels to Tehran as Iran war nears its 6-month mark, and all in that space. So yeah, definitely lots going on in that way. The mudslide surges through China's Jirong port. So what we know so far about the China-Nepal border mudslide, all affected residents, tourists evacuated following the mudslide in China's Jisang. So Tibet mudslide engulfs complex at China's gateway to Nepal. So definitely there's some bad weather going on in that part of the world. MTG-12 ready for launch on Ariane 6. So MTG-12 completes Europe's latest weather trio. So powerful Ariane 6 rocket launches the European weather satellite to orbit, and that is definitely something that folks are talking about also in the European theater. And alleged vandalism on Trump golf course linked to terrorism is what Scottish prosecutors are saying. So 7 have been charged with damaging Trump's Scottish golf course, have been accused of a terrorist connection. So pro-Palestinian activists accused of vandalizing Trump resort are facing terrorism accusations. So we'll see how this plays out, as this is another case where folks have been attacking some of Trump's properties, and all in that way. And Russia strikes Ukraine's capital with a wave of drones, and Russia bombards Kyiv and other cities in an onslaught testing Ukraine's defense. And Latvia's foreign minister warns of Russian sabotage acts in Europe. So Eastern Flank commissioners urge von der Leyen action over Russia. So it definitely looks like a lot's going on with this war, still continuing, has been going on for years now, and all in that space. Here to bring in Rick Rosner, see what he's got going on in his world and everything like that. We do have some other news. Apparently the judge is weighing criminal responsibility in the Lindsay Clancy trial. So they began their deliberations in Massachusetts, and we'll see what's going on as they are waiting for a verdict, because the jury will decide whether Lindsay Clancy is guilty in the murder of her 3 children. And judge rules Pentagon blacklisting of Anthropic is unlawful. So Trump administration's blacklisting of Anthropic was illegal, is what a judge ruled, and they blocked the Pentagon.
Yeah, so Anthropic had some serious reservations about what the military wanted to use their tech for.
Right.
surveillance of U.S. citizens, putting it in charge of weapon systems. We know how that worked out in the Terminator movies, right, with Skynet. So
Yeah.
Anthropic said, no, we're not going to let you. And so they got blacklisted. And so they sued because this is day 116 of $4 a gallon gas national average under second term Trump. So that we're looking at, it's been 4 months now. Ridiculous timing to start an unwinnable war right before the midterms. Even more ridiculous to start a trade war with Canada.
Yeah, that's
And
very ridiculous.
the two sides are disagreeing about who is responsible for the trade talks collapsing. And it's Howard Lutnick for Trump. And Lutnick is the guy who lied about taking his family to Epstein Island. So nobody trusts this guy. And Canada's in, I think, an advantageous position. If the talks aren't rectified, if they don't reach agreement, the tariffs kick in starting September 1st, 50% tariffs on a lot of goods. And all Canada has to do, if Canada doesn't like Trump, all they have to do is put up with 2 months of pain when dealing with American goods. They just don't agree to a trade agreement. The tariffs kick in, and you got all of September, you got all of October, with prices going crazy on both sides of the border, and then people vote on Trump's leadership. So Trump, again, an idiot for giving leverage to Canada 2 months before the midterms.
Well, he's got another issue as well because apparently and I just saw this article, but they're saying that his lovely construction could have been a factor in the Marine One safety incident, is what the NTSB found it. So investigators say White House construction was a major factor in the Marine One incident because apparently it caused some radio issues and everything like that. So Trump's Marine One helicopter had trouble communicating with air traffic controllers for the second time this month, and they're saying that part of this might have been also because of the chatter going around in near his construction.
Okay, I haven't heard this story before, but okay.
Yeah, so they're saying that White House construction caused Marine One radio issues. So I can see that if you're flying around and you've got people doing all kinds of chatter and everything like that, it might interfere. And they say Trump's cabinet is fanning out to help juice the base, and it's not going as planned. So apparently he flooded Iowa as Republicans are fighting to hold Congress. So they're saying kerfuffle as Trump aides fan out the sale agenda and are getting pummeled by apparently MAGA. So apparently some of the MAGA folks are not too happy, including some of the MAGAs that might have been part of the beef industry and everything like that. So apparently he's got his folks going out there trying to rally the troops, and the troops are not too happy.
So Trump is saying, the beef ranchers are pissed at Trump for bringing in, 30,000 pounds, 30,000 tons, a lot of Argentinian beef. And Trump is trying to win them back by saying that he's going to issue some executive order allowing beef producers to do their own meat processing. Now, Trump says accurately that the meat processing industry is a near monopoly dominated by 4 big meat packing companies. These are companies where cows show up at their front door, and by the time they're done with them, they leave as steaks, right? But letting ranchers do their own turning cows into steaks seems ridiculous. There's already an industry in place. If you wanted, instead of telling ranchers to do their own cow cutting up, maybe regulate the industry. It seems like more dunderheadedness. Now, I don't know, frickin', maybe it's an easy thing, but I doubt it. You got to hang up a cow, which weighs, I don't know what, 1,200 pounds or more. You got to take it along an assembly line. You cut it in half. You've got skilled workers who, render the cow into its constituent parts. It seems like this would be a huge added expense for ranchers to add slaughtering facilities to their frickin' ranch.
Yeah,
Um,
they got air slaughtering facilities, and yeah, that's never an easy task and everything like that. But apparently, Trump had one of his infamous orders where he has signed the order to rename Lake Ontario as Lake America. So I don't know why he's doing this, other than
yeah,
he's
I issued an order yesterday. My new name is Rod America, King Shit of the World. Let's see if that people follow that order. I'll ask my wife if she wants to call me King Shit of the World. You know, he can issue all the orders he wants. There's no ruling body for what things are called. It's people call things what they are. Their names. You can't just tell people. I mean, you can tell people, you know, like I did, to call me king shit, but nobody would.
nobody would.
He
Apparently,
also wants to rename an ocean, the American Ocean. He hasn't decided whether that'll be the Atlantic or the Pacific. Again, nobody cares. It's nonsense, and it's unproductive nonsense.
it's
Uh,
totally
the,
unpredictable.
so the State Department or some organ of the U.S. is has announced that the U.S. will provide aid to the likely more than 1,500 people in Nepal who were swept away by that giant wave a couple days ago. But that message of help, and I guess including 22 Americans are missing in that wave. That message was drowned out by Trump's bullshit over Lake America. You know, the U.S. does a good thing. It could have helped Trump PR wise that we're reaching out to a suffering part of the world. But no, the message is that the idiot wants to rename a body of water.
That's just a crazy message. And by the way, the latest reports I've heard that it's actually closer to like 90 Americans missing, including I think a
Okay, I didn't
mother
hear
and
that.
a teenage son and everything like that. So yeah, there's more Americans missing in that part of the world.
So
Than,
that's a very popular tourist destination among, you know, so, you know, this disaster happened, I don't know, 50 miles from Kathmandu, the capital of
right.
Nepal. And a lot of people like, you know, the trekking. You know, this whole thing happened less than 20 miles from Mount Everest. You know, there's the whole, you know, there are people with spiritual values who like going on spiritual tourism. You have people who like mountain climbing, like, and you know, yeah, it attracts a lot of tourism.
Yeah, it does attract a lot of tourism. Did you hear this latest thing about the military and the drones from Mexico? Apparently, the U.S. military used lasers to shoot down 3 cartel drones at the southern border. So this was reported on yesterday. So they're using laser weapons to take out cartel-linked drones at the southern border. It defeated 3 this week. So apparently, they're
Okay,
using lasers to knock down these drones that
all
are.
right. So it makes you wonder how many. When you see, you know, Ukraine throws 10,000 drones a day
Uh,
at the Russians. So it makes you wonder, you know, the cartels with their vast financial resources, how many drones they're sending over?
yeah.
If they knock down 3, how many got through?
Yeah, that's the question. How many got through? And you know, these names are picked in much in advance, but folks, including some of the weathermen, because I heard some of my weathermen having fun with this, are noticing that the latest tropical storm is actually named Dolly and everything like that. But it is bringing heavy rain to the Caribbean this weekend. But right now, the maps doesn't look like it's going to threaten Florida that much and everything like that. But you never can tell with these storms as it's speeding toward the Caribbean, and we'll see what it does as well. But yeah, apparently that was
Okay.
already going to be assigned the name Dolly even before Dolly Parton passed away and everything like that, because these names are assigned, I think, years in advance.
We had weird weather in LA yesterday, 97 degrees, and it started raining.
Oh, wow.
So it was kind of like, you know, just being in a hot tub yesterday.
You felt like you were in a hot tub yesterday?
Yeah, which I don't know. I remember hot tubs. They were a gross thing in the '80s where you'd go on a hot tub date. The first date that my wife, actually second date that we went on, we went to we got sushi and then we went to the hot tubs. This is we had brought our bathing suits and we got in a tub. You got 45 minutes in soaking in a tub that that three other couples had already had soaked in before you and done other stuff. It was kind of a filthy thing that people did in the '80s.
Filthy thing to do, but there was a lot of things that were popular back in the day that aren't as popular. I think that there was a time that people used to do stuff revolving around, I think, mud baths or stuff along those lines.
Well, that's a spa thing. I think you can still take mud baths if but people are less, since the rise of herpes and other sexually transmitted diseases. I don't think people are as, some people have hot tubs at their homes, but
Right.
the idea that you go to a hot tub place and, at 10 at night, you have a date in a hot tub that's been used by, 11 other couples over the course of the day.
Yeah, there's a couple of things that we do that I never quite understood, like those peak holes that existed and where people would be sticking stuff through and everything along those lines. I never quite understood those either because that's an invitation to disaster and to potential diseases and all along those lines.
Well, okay, I don't know, I don't know how many of those things actually exist and or
Yeah, I don't know.
continue to exist.
Yeah, I don't know how
I
many
would
people.
think that they're I don't know, maybe they are a remnant of when gay hookups had to be on the down low.
Right.
We've only had Stonewall, I think, was the great origin of gay pride. I think happened in 1969, where if guys were in a guy bar were gay guys, the cops would. It was illegal. The cops could raid them, and in 1969, in Lower Manhattan, cops raided this bar called the Stonewall, and the customers, the clientele, were like, "We've had enough of this," and they rioted in the
Right.
street. But that was only 57 years ago.
Yeah, that wasn't
So
that long ago, like you said, about 57 years ago, and there's things that used to be popular that aren't as popular. I mean, I know that there are still some folks that have bunk beds, and I'm sure there's still some people that have water beds and everything like that, but those were things that were very popular, probably like in the 70s and the 80s. I don't know how much people are rushing on college campuses and other places to get water beds.
water beds had a number of drawbacks. Now, some people thought they were comfortable, but you've got all these issues getting in and out of the bed, which is super sloshy. The water temperature. If
Hmm.
you live in a cold place and then you're getting on top of like 800 pounds of water, that's having sex on a sloshy thing. Other than no, and also like can your building support a bed that weighs 1,000 pounds?
Right.
Also, if you spring a leak,
And that
um,
was the big thing. If it sprung a leak, particularly if you were on the bottom of a apartment complex or something like that, that could be a total disaster because the water could come crashing down on you and everything like that. Yeah, so they had a lot of drawbacks, like you said, and even bunk beds, even though they were popular at one point or another, also had their drawbacks. So they were kind of cumbersome to get up on if you were the
well,
only.
also if it's like two brothers with bunk beds, if the brothers are young enough, the upper bunk can be turned into a water bed if somebody has a pee accident, and then the person below, so the 60s, which I grew up in the 60s and the 70s,
Yep.
and we had a lot of stuff that was not as much fun as we would have wanted it to be because we
Well,
didn't have the technology to entertain us.
no, we didn't have the
It
technology.
was
Speaking of technology, there was something else that was more of a 50s thing, I think, that was popular, and I think it went the way of the dodo bird and everything like that. But where did you ever get a chance to involve? Because I know it's very popular in LA, the drive-through culture, because there was this whole culture of drive-through movies, drive-through restaurants.
Drive-ins, no, drive-ins are okay. Drive-ins are, I mean, because as a high school kid, you wanted to take a date to the drive-in because it offered you a, if you were cool, which I wasn't, you could make out in your car while supposedly watching a movie.
Yeah, there
The
wasn't a lot of
drive-ins, I
movies.
mean, they were all right. The sound quality was terrible. I
Right.
remember my mom, when I was like 8 years old, my mom took me to a movie, Little Big Man, with Dustin Hoffman,
Mm-hmm.
and it rained. So we're watching, like a movie through windshield wipers.
Oh,
But most of those things, drive-ins went away because it wasn't the greatest experience, and probably the land became more valuable than using it basically as a big dirt lot.
yep, exactly. The land definitely became an issue because I think some of the land that was drive-in here in North Carolina, they turned into, I want to say one of them, they turned into an apartment complex. Coming back to more serious news and everything like that, with her term winding down, Pelosi, and this is down in your neck of the woods, is trying to anoint a successor. So I guess Connie Chan's critics are calling her a roadblock. She's calling herself a voice for her San Francisco community. So I guess they're trying to figure out who's going to be replacing Nancy Pelosi. And it looks like she's backing the Connie Chan. But what is your?
Okay, all right. Well, I mean, it'll almost certainly be a Democrat because California is well over 60% Democrat.
Okay.
Democratic. That's the thing that the Republicans did. That it used to be the Democratic Party, which sounded too good to Republicans, so they started calling it the Democrat Party, which sounds a little more harsh, but it's stuck.
Yeah.
So maybe you really can rename stuff.
Yeah, you can rename stuff. Apparently, this is a story that's also coming out of California. Abuse survivors, and we know we talked a little bit about this yesterday, got long delayed justice. Now, schools and cities are facing the cost. So they're saying child sex abuse survivors are urging California lawmakers to reject the limits on lawsuit payout. So, they can definitely get paid out if it's proved that they are victims of sex abuse. So, California lawmakers reach a deal to tweak the childhood sex abuse laws, but rebuff damage cap. So they are not liking the idea of having this cap and everything like that. So we'll see how this plays out as well. But definitely
So
law.
what are the caps? I'm looking it up.
Yeah, what are the caps?
Let's say, here we go. Give me a second.
Mhm.
There are currently no damage caps, but there was a recent legislative deal. Lawmakers rejected proposed damage caps during state budget negotiations. And while payouts remain uncapped, a recent legislative compromise places stricter evidence requirements on older survivors, those over 40 or with older cases where records were destroyed, obligating them to provide clear and convincing evidence. So.
Oh, wow. So that's what that's all about and everything like that. The Tate brothers are back in the news. Apparently, they testified at their Miami bail hearing because they are condemning U.S. jail conditions as they await a possible UK extradition and everything like that. So they used to have private jets and
Well, okay, let's talk about what the Tate brothers did.
Right.
They technologized rape.
Mm-hmm.
That is, they came up with one of their businesses was educating other young bros in how to trick young women into falling in love with them so they can be sexually exploited. So basically the way their business model is, and they did this themselves and they taught other people to do it. You love bomb is naive young women, and then you coerce them into living in a sex house and putting on sex shows, where you rent a house and it's got a bunch of bedrooms, and in the bedrooms you've got a bunch of women that you've kind of brainwashed, and if the brainwashing doesn't work, then physical threats of violence and actual violence, and you have them putting on like OnlyFans and cam shows, and You've told them that they can make a bunch of money, and they do make money, but you keep all the money. And you don't care particularly if some of the girls are underage. So this is what these guys did for years. They were running these rape businesses and teaching other people how to do it, and that's what they're being prosecuted for.
And that's what they're being
They're
prosecuted for. But now they're complaining about the jail conditions in the U.S. Apparently, they're saying that it's just about scurvy and everything like that.
Well,
So
that's ironic since their business model had them imprisoning women.
exactly. That's very ironic that they would be saying that. It looks like this GOP unprecedented midterm convention might be having other problems as well because it's going to be taking place and everything like that. They're saying Victory Park streets to be shut down for 5 days during Trump convention. But what I had forgotten about is that it is during the time of the NFL opening, so they'll have to compete with the NFL openers for attention. So a lot is going to be going on because this is like that same weekend as the first week of the NFL season and everything like
This
that.
isn't something that people would want to watch anyway.
Right.
And yeah, it's a risky thing because Trump continues to lose control of what he says. But let's ask Sasha. Sasha, this was a really stupid time to start trade talks with Canada, right? With 2 months to go until the midterms, all Carney has to do is not agree to a deal and let prices go up 50% by 50% for 2 months right before an election.
Well, I don't think that it was a goal of Carney necessarily to create a lot of grief and inconveniences, if I may to say, to the United States. He wanted to have a viable deal which could be good for both sides and abide by this deal. You see, with Trump, it's even the deals that he
Can you
created.
talk a little louder?
Even the deal that he himself created and signed with Canada in his first cadence, he essentially got out of this deal, destroyed it, made it nullified. And so now, I believe they came very close to signing, but last minute demands, amplified by Latnik, derailed everything. But this has nothing to do with Latnik. It's a style of U.S. style negotiations when you go and you agree to something, and in the last moment you ask for more by even risking to derail the deal. And I think America is losing much more than Canada by derailing the deal because Canada is very active now, signing new deals with new countries, new continents, and America is alone. Nobody wants to deal with the United States. Nobody wants to negotiate or sign anything and so on because it's not worth the effort. Let's say you spend so much time negotiating, you're sending delegations, and you are preparing the plans and so on. So even if it will be signed like memorandum with Iran, it's not worth anything. It could be derailed in next half an hour. So it just doesn't make any sense. That's why everybody is now avoiding United States, not dealing with United States. Mexico signed a multi-billion-dollar deal with Brazil. Canada signed $20 billion deal with Germany for delivering the gas. How many other examples like this? So everybody is trying to avoid America. I don't know how America will reposition itself, but so far it looks really bad.
So Trump's been saying that Canada is just a mean country that doesn't get along with anybody. And the truth is that Canada is the only country among the G7 countries that has trade agreements with every other G7 country.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. And Canada is well respected. And by the way, right now, Mark Carney is de facto a leader of the Western world. He's well respected. He's very educated, clever, down to earth guy, well spoken. And this is something. And he proved that he can deal with somebody like Trump. So this is incredible achievement.
Yep, he's
And
definitely.
yet, the U.S. is a hungrier country because we have 350 million people. Canada has 40 million people. So we need more stuff. So, yeah, any kind of trade deal break. Plus, you guys have tremendous natural resources.
Yeah,
The second biggest country in terms of land area. You're the world's largest country in terms of coastline. If you're interested in fish, you've got a bunch of oil. You have uranium. We don't have uranium. So
rare earth metals, potash, I just name it. It's well, the forest products that you supply all over the world now. So I think that, and guess what? The water. Canada has abundance of water resources which US needs. Electricity that US is buying from Canada. Oil, of course, and oil terminals for refineries. They are already in the United States. They are tuned to deal specifically with Canadian oil. So if that deal will fall apart, so you have to.
yeah, so the oil from every different part of the world has different qualities. Like we know that Venezuelan oil is dirtier than average, so it takes more refining. And I think Canadian oil, you have these tar sands, which
Right.
are hard to refine. And so in the U.S. does a lot of that refining.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, and it seems like, speaking of Venezuela, it seems like there was a effort for the U.S. to actually be getting this Venezuelan oil, because this was something that just came out. I mentioned that earlier in the news report and everything like that, where they are saying that they're going to get the oil, and some people think that that's the main reason that he went into that particular country and everything along those lines. So, what is our take on this notion of us getting oil from Venezuela?
So
And
it's confusing for people, and it's probably confusing on purpose. The U.S. has strategic petroleum reserves.
Right.
These are caves filled with oil that we can drain to help keep the price of oil down. And then the U.S. says, we're doubling our reserves. It doesn't mean the same thing. The oil in the caves is pretty close to being usable. The reserves that we might be doubling if we work out a deal to take Venezuela's oil, that's not instantly available oil. That's oil that'll be available perhaps in future years when they fix the refineries in Venezuela or build new ones. So it's not like this agreement with Venezuela, even if it goes through, will lower oil prices in the short term. It may help, years from now.
It seems like there's some companies like Chevron that are trying to be part of this deal and everything.
Chevron has been the only oil company that's willing to go into Venezuela right now and try to do business, because it's an expensive proposition. You got to spend billions of dollars to build new plants to deal with dirty crude oil that comes out of the ground in Venezuela.
Yeah, you got to deal with all of that. One of Trump's allies is apparently in his own hot water and everything like that. So I was wondering if you've heard about this, you and Sasha, and your thoughts around this. But it looks like the Florida grand jury has found that the DeSantis administration misappropriated funds from a Medicaid settlement. But DeSantis is saying the only crime connected to Hope Florida was leaked grand jury reports. But they are saying that about $10 million was misappropriated and everything along those lines. So any take on this notion and whether this will hurt in a deep red state? Because Florida is definitely a deep red state.
Well, I don't know how much it will hurt because people already accustomed that the party at power is prone to all kind of not very honest dealings and, or simply stealing the money. And well, listen, let's face it, people who wants to vote for Republicans, they will do it anyway, regardless of what the Republicans will come up with. Okay?
So okay, so the accusation by a grand jury is that DeSantis diverted $10 million to a nonprofit run by the governor's wife. And then the 10 million was routed through other nonprofits, then funneled into political action committees that were headed up by DeSantis people. Now DeSantis is like a mini Trump in Florida. The right wingers in Florida love him, and they're kind of in the majority, and the non-right wingers think he's a jerk who isn't serving the people of Florida. Like if you ask Nick about stuff, it's very hard to get homeowners insurance in Florida because of severe weather. The weather's changing. It sweeps away houses along the coast. So anyway, DeSantis is termed out. His time as governor by law he can't run again, has to end, I think, in January of next year.
Yeah, which is why they're talking about Byron being the governor and some other people that are gearing for his job and everything like that.
Yeah, Byron Donalds, who's a congressman, pretty sleazy himself, kind of an idiot, but I think the front runner to become governor. He says he's going to keep the Surgeon General, who's a guy that a not respected doctor, a vaccine denier. Between the Surgeon General and the governor, they kept Florida open during COVID, so the death rate in Florida after vaccines became available 80% higher than the death rate in California. But still, right wingers love that. That Florida was a free state. You didn't have to mask. You didn't have to get vaxxed. And if it's mostly old people who died, well, they were going to die anyway.
Yeah, that's what their argument and everything like that. I know yesterday we were talking to Steve about India and the H-1B visa, and I saw an article on where looks like a person that was from Indian descent was saying that they getting an H-1B visa because of the $100,000 fee. So they're definitely optimistic about their future outside the U.S. That sounds like a lot of money to be getting a visa. I don't know what to
Well,
say.
it means you have to want a particular person from India a lot. To I think it's $100,000 a year.
Right.
So on top of their salary, you're paying the U.S. government to have this person work for you $100,000 a year, $8,000 a month, and it seems like the U.S. is only 4% of the world. In the past, we've been able to attract a lot of good people from the other 96% of the world. Now that we're being dicks, those talented people are going to stay home, or they're going to go to other countries like China, and I think it hurts our advantages, our advantage in tech. Our advantage used to be that people wanted to come to America and live large. If you're some smart kid in India, maybe you want to come to the U.S., go to Stanford, start a company, marry a 6-foot blonde woman. But now, seeing all the hate coming from America, maybe you want to go to China, start a company, live in a penthouse, marry a model in China.
Yep, might be going that way. It looks like the Trump administration is running against some Native American folks as well, because they started building this border wall project in Arizona over the tribe's objections. So the tribe accused the U.S. federal agents of trespassing on indigenous borderland, and a mass CBP agent entered tribal land as a contractor prep for the border wall. So it looks like they're going to build a border wall on this Indian territory, but the leadership of the tribes are not too happy about that and everything like that. So we'll see what goes on in that.
So the trouble with the border wall, particularly in Texas, is the whole border between the border between Texas and Mexico is the Rio Grande River. And it's really hard to build a barrier in the middle of a river. They've tried a bunch of stuff, and it tends to kill people, because if they try to cross and they get tangled up in some kind of border barrier, then they drown.
Right.
Also, that border is privately owned by farmers along the Rio Grande. It's great to have a ranch, a farm, where one side of your property is a river that gives you endless water for your animals, for your crops, and now they want to wall it off from you. And yeah, private landowners, and almost, I forget the percentage, but it's well over half is privately owned. And the feds who are supposed to be limited government are fucking with farmers and ranchers.
Yeah, messing with farmers and ranchers. It looks like the Justice Department is suing the state of Washington over in-state tuition and aid for undocumented students. So this sounds like some more Trump madness. So the Department of Justice is suing Washington over in-state tuition and financial aid for undocumented students. So they are, I guess, going after them for giving aid, even though they were lacking legal status and things along those lines. But it sounds like it's more.
So one of the purposes, and actually they've done better at this than any of their other promises. One of the purposes of the Trump administration is to screw over non-white people. And they, out of all the things that Trump had promised he was going to do, the border stuff, the being mean to immigrants, and that he hasn't been that successful at deporting people, but there's been a lot of noise around it. But I would argue that all the messing with people that you don't like does nothing to improve the lives of Americans. I don't think people's lives have been improved because we're deporting all these people. Now, Trump's people would argue, well, that frees up apartments, it frees up jobs. It doesn't do that much of it, because the people who get deported, they're not living in deluxe, homes and apartments. They've only deported 600,000 people, which is, like 1/5 of 1% of the American population. It creates a lot of misery among the deported and the people fearing deportation, but it doesn't suddenly free up all these jobs.
Yep.
Sasha?
I believe that Trump is doing a lot of things just to please himself and his base, MAGA or whatever, although I'm not convinced that all MAGA is going to vote for Trump, but we'll see. And therefore, it's a waste of time to find any logic in what he's doing, everything what he says. Most of it is a lie. So it's very depressing, and it's 2 more months until midterm elections.
See, that was in that regard and everything. Hey, Sasha, I saw that NVIDIA, your #1 stock, has gone and bought something called Hugging Face, which I think is an AI model repository for $13 billion or something around those lines. So there are a lot of people who are saying that the acquisition is logical, ambitious, and definitely keeping them to be an even more growing empire and everything like that. But just wondering, how has that impacted your stock? They're buying this particular, or agreeing to buy this particular AI model called Hugging Face.
Can you turn down the noise?
Somebody's got background music going.
I think it's over. I don't have any background noise. Let me see. Yeah, it's over.
Okay, anyway.
You're saying NVIDIA's up or down?
NVIDIA, what's important is that they showed great results, but like in any previous quarters. And what was happening is that usually NVIDIA would go higher on the earnings results, and then it would turn down, and just would go down for some time, then it would stabilize. It was in the last several quarters, the same pictures. This time there's something different. What's the big difference there? Excuse me, can you get rid of this noise? There's some music on the background.
He's muted. Toby's muted.
I can still feel there's noise.
Oh, it might be my air conditioner, but
There was some music coming as well. I don't know. Do you have musical air conditioner? Okay, it's great now. So NVIDIA now announced that they have a backlog of $2 trillion of their products. It's mind-boggling. It's incomparable to anything what I've ever seen or heard on capital markets. This is absolutely incredible. So I think NVIDIA this time, not only it didn't go down, it went up, it's staying up, and I think by the end of the year, now I have no doubts it's going to be $250 stock, and next year it's going to be 300 and higher. Because now, believe it or not, NVIDIA, which is not a cheap stock, it's today, what, $225 a share on several parameters, including like price per earnings ratio. It's the cheapest stock in United States of America, especially in AI, the ecosphere. So can you believe it that this very expensive stock with a capitalization of over $5 trillion on a price per earnings is the cheapest AI stocks that you can buy? I've never seen anything on financial markets.
So people like Warren Buffett are saying that there's an AI collapse, coming, and that AI, I mean, basically what he's saying is like the dot-com boom of 1999, that AI won't be investable until a bunch of companies collapse. So you're saying that NVIDIA will survive a collapse, that it remains an investable company?
I don't think it will survive. It has $2 trillion of back orders. It will fly. There will be a lot of companies that are buying their stuff. They may go under, and I'm pretty sure some of them will go under for sure, because the competition is heated. But you see, these companies, they're not really inventing anything. They're just shuffling the money. They're taking investors' money. Okay, they're trying to build data centers if they can, or rent some spaces, buy NVIDIA's equipment. Okay, so now we got NVIDIA equipment, give us more money. So this is not serious. This is not something that will stay around for long. Okay. NVIDIA, by the way, NVIDIA financed a lot of these companies, but of course they seriously investigated what are these companies, who is running them, and so on, to help them to become successful in AI business model. There are a few companies that they did so, and the chairman of NVIDIA actually said that will be another profit center for NVIDIA in the future, and not too distant future, because as I said a couple of weeks ago, there was validation of AI business center with the data centers and so on. So it is performing. It's not even a question anymore. Are this investments money? We're talking about billions, if not trillions of dollars invested to build this giant data centers and so on. Whether it will be any time that it will pay off, or it's just a waste of more and more and more money. So the answer was decisively yes, it's already paying off, and it will pay off even more in near future.
So I got a question for Jatovy. It's about to be a busy time in the non-political world. Regular baseball season is ending. WNBA season is getting close to the end. football is about to start. And it used to be back in the days of regular TV, all the fall shows would roll out. The old people here would remember how exciting it was in September to see all the new shows on ABC and NBC and CBS. That model has gone away. But Jacoby, what are you looking at in terms of distracting us from the political nonsense? Oops, your voice isn't coming through. We're getting music and not your voice.
Yeah, we're not getting your voice.
I have to go to Ukrainian show. See you guys later. Bye-bye.
Right. Good weekend.
Can't hear you, Jacoby.
There we go.
There you go.
There's doing some stuff in the background. On the computer. There's a ton of stuff that's happening. I mean, everything you pointed out, I mean, yeah, it's going to be a decent distraction, but with everything going on, it's going to be hard to distract. It's going to be hard to distract from a war, hard to distract that you can't pay for groceries and you can't eat. So you can't pay for cable, so you can't watch the game. So, I mean, there's tons of stuff out there to watch. And
all right, I mean, so I'd rather be not able to pay for groceries now than 100 years ago in the 1930s during the Great Depression. In the Great Depression, what you did to distract was, if you were lucky, you maybe knew somebody with a radio, or if you could come up with a dime, you could go to the movies. That was it. Now, you might not be, you might be $8,000 underwater on your credit card, but at least you have, a 60-inch TV that you got on Black Friday for $200. It's still miserable to be poor, but we're poor with some gewgaws.
I mean, poor is poor. If you can't pay for food, you can't pay for food. And people are a little bit mean, especially these days. It's just, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Trump took 7 million. Trump knocked 7 million people off of food benefits, off of SNAP, saying that in order to get those benefits, you got to work, and it's hard to get a job if you're 11 years old
or disabled.
Hey, Jacoby, really quickly, what is your take on Al Michaels? I know he's a longtime Republican, but like you, he is a announcer and all along those lines. But he is, I guess, got in hot water because he made a quip, and it was a jab to some degree against Trump and everything like that. So I just wanted your take on this whole incident that took place with the 81-year-old Al Michaels.
I mean, I didn't see the quip. I hadn't seen anything about it, but anything because MAGA is very loud. You say anything about Trump, they're going to try and come at you.
Yeah,
especially if you're a public figure. So,
apparently it was like split reactions, and some of the MAGAs were very much going at him, even though he's definitely a longtime Republican and everything like that. But
that doesn't matter. You got to bend the knee to Trump. If you don't bend the knee to Trump, then you're an enemy, according to Trump and the ethos of MAGA.
Yeah, my favorite people in the political world are Republicans who are pissed at Trump. These are people, I mean, the Republican Party has good basic values. They just haven't followed those values since Trump and maybe before that. William Buckley, the most famous conservative of his time, said conservatives stand athwart history, in front of history, shouting stop or no. They stand against change. And that's a legitimate point of view. But that's not what you get with MAGA. You get all sorts of changes and terrible changes. And
MAGA does whatever Trump wants them to do.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing.
So traditional Republicans, some of them have enough, and they're like, "This is not Trump does not reflect my traditional values."
But Yeah, I mean, the thing is, if you have your traditional Republican, if they haven't done like MAGA or any of the other ones that are voting behind Trump and traded in everything that they said they believed in, then yeah, you got your matter of fact, what's his name? Dick Cheney's daughter, Liz Cheney.
Yeah,
She didn't change. She stood on her 2 feet and said,
yeah, we wouldn't agree with her on 98% of stuff. Just crazy conservative values, but had enough of Trump and then got her ass whipped by a lunatic to repeat as senator in Wyoming. But there are a lot of anti-Trump Republicans who say, first, we got to clean up the party. We got to get rid of Trump and his craziness, and then we can go back to fighting about liberal versus conservative. But until then, we got to get this scourge out of the White House.
So yeah, and my whole thing now, I guess the best question is, or the best way to deal with these Trump people is saying, hey, you voted for this. And they're going to argue, no, we didn't vote for this. Well, if you didn't vote for it, prove it to me now. Vote against it.
Yeah, I mean, farmers in particular. Trump is, screwed over ranchers with this beef stuff, with tariffs. The tariffs the tariffs ruled illegal. So then he rolls out new tariffs using a different excuse, and we are 4 days away from 50% tariffs on stuff to and from Canada. That screws farmers again. The fertilizer comes through the Strait of Hormuz, the raw ingredients, so they can't afford fertilizer. So yeah, I do feel sorry for farmers, even if they voted for Trump. If they're now saying it was a bad idea, if they're still supporting Trump, then I'm less sympathetic.
It's just funny now that, like I said, the ones that support Trump are the ones that sit there and updating my Amazon because I got to order something. Helping out Jeff Bezos get to space. But yeah, the ones that support Trump have all traded in their values just to be behind Trump.
But on the other hand, my wife and I, every couple of years, we go to a dude ranch up north of here that's been in this family since, 1860 something. And they don't talk politics. Nobody talks politics up there because nobody would want to hear, what people. But I'm sure, I'm 90% sure that they've been Republican voters for 100 years. It's tough. If you've been my parents and my grandparents, they leaned conservative. They voted Republican, and it takes a while. I mean, it's been 10 years of Trump now, so people should realize. But if you're a long-term Republican, it's taken a while to put on the brakes and realize that the values that you've been voting for generations aren't reflected.
Right. That's very true and everything. We can wrap up. We got the training shift going on as well. I'll see you fine gentlemen on Monday.
All right, see you then.
Yeah.
Thank you. Good weekend, everybody.